it gets to the point where, especially if you're teaching and you're beginning someone, you can tell just by the way they speak where the best position for their chops are going to be. You don't even have to give them a mouthpiece. For example, when I'm looking at you, you are an absolute type 4. When you speak, I see your lower teeth. I do not see your upper. And your natural jaw position is forward. You are going to be placing lower than someone who, when they speak, you know, most people when they speak, Jose, we see their upper incisors. Okay. But there are some that all we see is the lower portion. And they are probably going to wind up being upstream players, and their placement is going to be a bit lower. And can you imagine, like, let's say if Louis would have had a formal trumpet teacher, okay?
Oh boy.
And would have saw his play something for me, little boy, you know, and Louis put it up there, and he was off to the right. Can you imagine, even if the man or woman was well intended? Can you imagine what he would have done to Louis, or let's say Maynard, if they would have said, no. Now listen to your teacher now. Your mouthpiece has to be such and such on such and such lip, and it has to be dead center. Can you imagine what genius they would have robbed us of?
Yeah.
And yet they meant well, hopefully. And then there are others that are, for lack of expression, they can be a prick, and they don't mean well. Well, you'll sense them right away, so you get away from them. But most of us do mean well. We are not, so that's why there are different placements, and it has to do with finding your most freedom within your track, where you can go from low to high with endurance and good sound, and your mechanics are sound, and you're able to maintain and to get stronger by the end of the night, and not weaker. Our placements are, and there's a reason. And there's a much greater knowledge of it now than there was certainly back in the 1930s, 40s, or 50s, or even when I was a kid in the early 60s coming up. You know, there's a knowledge of it. And but if that's the way you hear, like I remember reading an interview Charlie Shavers did before he passed away in 1971 with Les Tompkins. Charlie said he didn't enjoy playing in the upper register very much. He said, I only do it for a dramatic effect, and I do it for show business and this, that, or the other thing. But I don't, you know, I don't, it's not everything to me. You know, I don't necessarily, that's the way he felt. And that's fine. But if that's the way you hear, then you know, there's a will, there's a way. There's more than one way to the top of a mountain, and we all develop somewhat of a hybrid philosophy about various things we've learned through trial and error and experience and whatever to help us make sense out of, because all of our musicality for us as trumpet players, it has to be compressed into the circumference of, what are we going to say, a nickel or maybe a dime, and it's this. All of our knowledge, the beauty that we want to come out, it has to come through here. It could be in the soul, but if we can't get it through here, what the hell good is it? You know, this, and there's a world of triumph in here, and there's also a world of tragedy. And all of us have been through both ends of it, so we have empathy for each other, and we just try to make our instrument as enjoyable to perform as we possibly can.
Yeah. And you know what you're saying there about the triumph and the tragedy. You know, I think I've had this conversation with so many different people on and off the podcast. You know, there's trumpet playing, which is the kind of the mechanical thing, like how you produce the sound, and then there's making music.
Yes.
And you know, the all of the technique in the world and all the knowledge and the theory and all that stuff, to me, is ultimately pointless if you're not making music. And music is, like you were saying earlier, it's communication, and what you're communicating, your ideas and your emotions.
Yep. And when we're up there, we don't think about anything mechanically. We just think about making music.